Hello boys and girls, welcome back to another edition of Crush Lusher Television. Alright, we're getting down to the very end. So today we're going to work on this one from the AP College Board. This is about analyzing graphs, very important. So this one is kind of complicated, so you might want to watch this multiple times or redo some of the sections if you get confused, okay? So obviously try it on your own right now. So you have g of x right here. So this is g, and then it says f prime is this function and f of 0 is -1. So you have to find the critical points of f and then see whether it's max or min or neither. Then you have to find if f is a point of inflections, you got to fill out this chart, and then you got to solve for h prime of x at 0 here. So try this, take 15 minutes, time yourself 20 minutes, and then watch the rest of the video, okay? This one's complicated, then you may want to put a star by certain ones and redo them in your study guide, all right? So here we go. I'm going to do the problem. So there's G and there's F. So let's go down to my work. Okay. So A, as to the critical points of F. So critical points are when F prime is 0. So when the slope equals 0, these are critical points. That is in your notes. You can go back and look. So I'm just going to set this bad boy equal to 0 right here because that's already F prime. Now, one of the things I notice is this, you can never get an exponential equal to 0. You can't put nothing in here. Like if you put 0, e to the 0 equals 1, e to the 1 equals e to the, what if I put a negative number? -1, that's 1 over e, which is 1 over 2.71. That's just a fraction, that's positive. You can't put anything in there that's going to be a 0 or a negative number. You can't do that. So this is going to be positive regardless. It's always going to be a positive number. So this is always positive when you set it equal to 0. But this, using the zero product property, if this is 0, if I make this 0, 0 times whatever this is going to equal 0. So if I get this parenthesis equal to 0, then I'm good. So I'm going to add 5/4 on both sides. And so x, broke my pencil, x squared equals 5/4. Square rootage, x equals plus or minus radical 5. You can square root the numerator and square root the denominator. Square root of 4 is 2. So that's a fancy way to do it. Okay? So what does this mean now? So now, that's the critical point. So we got that. That's the first part. Now I got to figure out whether this is max or min. All right? Max or min. So I got to do a little chart. So I got f prime and f. So I have negative radical 5 over 2, and then radical 5 over 2. Okay, so what's in between these? That would be 0. So let's plug in 0 here. So if I plug in 0 into this, so this is always going to be positive. So I can just ignore this. All I really care about is this when I'm doing the sign test. So 0 squared is 0 minus 5/4 is a negative number. Negative times a positive is a negative. And so if the derivative is negative, that means the slope is negative, like that. So over here, I don't know what the hell this is because I don't have a calculator, but I'm going to assume that this is, I know radical 4 is 2, and radical 5 is a little bit over that. So I imagine this is like a little bit more than -1. So I'm going to choose something safe like -5, for example, like -5. -5 squared is 25 minus that. 25 minus that is positive. Positive, and this is obviously positive. Anytime you have an exponential like this, it's always going to be positive. So positive times positive is a positive slope going up. So this is a max or min. Yeah, it's a max. You're going up and then down. It is a relative maximum. Okay, so let's try this. Let's be safe. I know this is around 1, a little bit more than 1. And so let's choose 10. 10 squared is 100. Minus that is obviously positive. E to the 100th power is some big-ass positive number. So I got positive times positive, which is a positive. There we go. So we have -5 over 2. Negative radical 5 over 2 as a max. And we have this 5 over radical 5 over 2 as a min. So negative radical 5 over 2 is a maximum, and x equals radical 5 over 2 is a minimum. Cool. So you have to write a little justification. I read it before. It said if you just have the sign chart, that's not good enough. You got to write a justification. You can also write because f prime goes from positive to negative and f prime goes from negative to positive right there. You can also write that. So that's part A, done. Cool. All right, part B. I want points of inflection. All right, so part B. This one's kind of tricky, but we're going to get it. So part B. So we know that f prime of x equals x squared minus 5 over 4 e to the x. I'm just copying that ish down from what it gives us, right? So points of inflection are always with the second derivative, like that. So I need to find the derivative of this. This looks like, I can find the derivative of this and the derivative of this, so this means like it's product rule. So I'm going to write down the first. Derivative of the second. Derivative of e to the x is just e to the x times 1, because that's the derivative of the exponent, but you don't got to put times 1. I'm going to put that, whatever. Plus, write down the second. Derivative of this. What's the derivative of this? Yeah, you're right. 2x. The derivative of negative 5 over 4 is 0. Cool. All right. So what do we have here? What can we do? This is kind of tricky because I guess set this equal to 0 because I define the inflection points. So I could do a sign chart with this just like I did for part A. So I'm looking at this and I see that both of these have an e to the x. So I'm going to take an e to the x out because both of these terms, this term and this term, have an e to the x. So what am I left with? So I got x squared minus 5 over 4 plus 2x. So I got this and this, because if I do I get the same thing back, right? So when does this equal 0? So just like before, if I do 0 product property, this is always going to be positive. So I can't set this equal to 0, but I can set this equal to 0. So here's the tricky part. So I got x squared plus 2x minus 5 over 4 equals 0. So this is just like product property. Like if I had this x minus 3, x plus 2 equals 0, I set this and this equal to 0. This is like very basic. I'm doing the same thing right here. It just looks more complicated. So how do you set this equal to 0? One thing you can do is you can do the quadratic formula. Okay, remember that? Because I don't know how the hell to factor this. Second thing I'm going to do this. This is a good move. I'm just going to multiply this whole thing by 4 and get rid of this fraction right here. Because 4 times x squared, what should I do, is 4x squared. 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. So it just eliminates what the denominator is. And then 4 times 0 is still 0. So now I can factor this. 8 on the top. 4 times negative 5. Negative 20 on the bottom. You want to practice this factoring if you need. What is this? 10 and negative 2. So I got 4x plus 10. Sorry, 4x squared. Bring this down. Plus 10x minus 2x. Bring the last one down. Minus 5 equals 0. Wah, 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 wah. Okay. So what can I factor out of here? I can factor out a 2x, because I can divide this by 2, so I got to get 2x out of here. So this is going to be 2x plus 5. And what can I factor out of here? Yeah, negative 1. And this is also 2x plus 5. Cool. All right, so take the outside. So 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 5 equals 0. And then now I use the 0 product property again. Yeah. 2x minus 1 equals 0, and 2x plus 5 equals 0. What do I get? I get plus 1. 2x equals 1. X equals a half. Minus 5. 2x equals negative 5 over 2. So I got x equals 1/2 and negative 5 over 2. Woo! All right, cool, nice job. We're doing good. Okay, so where are we at? What the hell are we doing here? We are finding the critical points. So I got -5/2 and 1/2. So that's where the concavity is 0. So we have no concavity. So we got because that's at the second derivative equal to 0. So we have, this is f double prime and f. So remember, so I took this part here and I turned it into this. And remember, you just have e to the x also. So this whole thing is e to the x, and I factored this. This equals the same thing. So I'm just going to use this. So I sort of do, so this, I'm going to sort of do in my head, but you can obviously write it out like we did in class. So if I have a negative, like -10, what do I have? This is always going to be positive, remember? So 2 times -10, so this is going to be a negative. And then 2 times -10, this is going to be -20 plus that, so it's a negative. So positive times negative is positive. So this is concave up. I'm going to choose 0 here. So this is going to be negative and positive. So negative times positive is a negative, sorry. And then if I choose something like 100, that's a positive, that's a positive, and that's a positive. So I have like that. So it looks like this goes from concave up to concave down. So this is a point of inflection. This is where the frowny and smiley change, and then also 1/2. So x equals -5/2 and x equals 1/2 are points of inflection because f double prime changes from positive to negative or vice versa. Bam. Sorry, that's a little sloppy. Don't do that on your test. I'm just doing it because I'm trying to hurry up and make sure we get everything on one video. There you go. Okay, where are we at with time? All right, so I'm going to do part C and D on the next video. Nice job, everybody. I'll see you on the next one. So we're going to do C and D next. All right, I don't have enough time because I only got 15 minutes per video on this program.